I mean, they also, Fnatic have flexed this Pangolier hero in the past before. Oh, this is a good steal.
Okay.
They take away the Disruptor. So they saw the impact of the Disruptor with the Static Storm. If they can combo that up with a good fight with the Pango, it could be pretty damn good. Just have to make sure that you don't bounce people outside of the Static Storm. You've seen that happen before, and that's a little bit unfortunate when it does. But one thing I'm glad about, we spoke about this in game number 1, that Fnatic didn't really have teamfight. Here, teamfight is not going to be an issue. Their opening 2 heroes do almost nothing but Rolling Thunder, the Static Storm, Glimpses back. So they've at least given themselves an opportunity to make sure that they don't just get stuck in this mode of, well, all we can do is pick off individual heroes. Now they can smoke up as 5 and try and make something happen on the map.
Oh, okay. So they're going to open up with the Invoker coming out of the first 2. I already said coming into game number 1, I haven't been able to pay that much attention to these 2 teams throughout the entirety of the group stage, and they've both just blown me away with these first kind of openers. Fnatic have been playing a lot of Pangolier. That hasn't been anything that we've been all too surprised about. They play it on multiple lanes as well. I think they can play it like basically 1 through to 5. So every single player on Fnatic is going to be relatively okay with how this Pangolier is going. I was going to say, if Marcy makes it out of this second phase here, you're definitely going to be picking it up for Fnatic. Kind of one of the nice things about leaving the Marcy for them is Entity decided to go for the Nyx Assassin. Nyx Assassin Marcy sounds like a pretty horrible 1-2 support, so they kind of gave themselves a bit of a free ban coming out here as well. So the other heroes that they decided to combine with this Pangolier have been things like the Lifestealer. They've played a little bit more around like the Templar Assassin. They've played things like the Bat Rider. What else have they really kind of played? I wouldn't hate to see a Nakes. I think I've really started to move myself back towards Nakes being one of those heroes that can kind of do really well against certain scenarios, just because of how strong that Open Wounds has become. The fact that it's basically a global kind of cast range really makes that hero kind of shine a little bit and can really do a lot of work against a lot of these beefy kind of heroes. And having a natural built-in BKB against things like the Nyx Assassin and the Invoker just means that the team fight makes it a little bit easier for you, and you've always got the Disruptor to try and bring people back into your phase. But though, Entity, I want to see them try and ban another position 4 hero that can do a lot of work for them. I feel like Dirge wouldn't be too bad, gives them a whole boatload of team fight once again. The Invoker is relatively good at dealing with the Tombstone, but Nyx Assassin really has a pretty rough time in a team fight against something like the Undying. So just have those heroes that the Nyx Assassin can't really deal with is probably the biggest thing here for Entity. There's going to be a lot of these cores that he can really deal with relatively okay, especially things that Raven has been playing a lot of, like the Terror Blades and a lot of these kind of illusion carries. So wouldn't hate to see Entity ban out another one of these DJ heroes.
Let's see. This game, I wouldn't be too upset as well at seeing Lone Druid taken out. Okay. The Entity is the one that banned it out. I mean, they saw that Fnatic had first pick out of the phase, so they were not going to give them the opportunity to do so. How do you feel about the Spirit Breaker here? We saw some decent success with him earlier on from Boxy. I say decent, it was actually game-breaking, but having him in this situation, we've sometimes in the past seen him as a pseudo answer to the Nyx Assassin. You can just keep following this hero around. It's a way to be able to apply pressure to Invoker early on in the game before this hero can really start getting a hold of this mid lane. And of course, it's just a nice, I like having this interplay of like one hero can force the fights and Disruptor is the one that can force the retreat. Glimpse a hero back, or you chase them across the map. Either way, you just have the mobility advantage. I think that could be a decent shot for Fnatic.
Yeah. I don't hate it. Definitely feel like that this first pick coming out of the second phase is really going to be able to tell us what Fnatic's idea is going in towards this game number 2, whether or not they want to try and have overwhelming team fight, whether or not they want to try and have these tanky heroes that the Nyx Assassin can't deal with, and kind of group together, because I think that's where the downfall for this Nyx Assassin has come sometimes, has been these teams that kind of group up as a ball, and the Nyx hasn't really been able to get a lot of that pick-off potential, even just trying to get himself towards some of these blink daggers and stuff like that. I feel like in the days of old, when you saw these Nyx Assassins with things like Meteor Hammer and all that kind of stuff, that's when you were seeing a lot more of these death balls get over the top of the Nyx Assassin. So they're just going to go with the Dirge. It's what I thought was going to get banned out here from Entity. They did spend a lot of time there to get rid of the Lone Druid and the Drow. So pretty straightforward here from Fnatic. They've got 3 heroes that give them a whole lot of team fight. 3 heroes that are relatively okay in the Nyx Assassin. I think Disruptor is probably the only one that's going to have some issues here. You can get caught out with it with the Pangolier swashbuckling into some creep waves, but Dirge definitely has a really good shout at this. So they're just going to go with the buff up strat here. Shadow Fiend +1. Silencer into these heroes. Okay, you're able to at least stop the Rolling Thunder, and now you've got a really good base to help this this Shadow Fiend, and it's going to go back for the RML Classic in the Terrorblade.
So TB for Fnatic. There were some years ago, especially around TI5, TI6 era, where if you played fantasy cards back in those days, the smart and only reliable decision one could make would be put Raven in the team, because Raven would pick Terrorblade, he would dominate his games, get like obscene amounts of net worth, obscene amounts of farm. Even if like TNC Fnatic weren't winning at the time, it didn't really matter. Just having Raven there was good for your points tally in total. And now he's going to be on one of his signature heroes on this TB. What's interesting about what Entity have done here with the Silencer is if they can find themselves vision in the midst of these team fights, they can get the global silence down before the Static Storm emerges from the side of Fnatic. And Static Storm is going to be a big requirement for their team fight overall in tandem with this Pangolier. So Entity, it's going to be a lot of pressure going back onto this Nyx Assassin to ensure that they have adequate vision to make those kind of moves. But I like that they have this TB, that they have some late game potential as well. As good as this Shadow Fiend has looked, the Shadow Fiend can just stand there and hit heroes. A sufficiently farmed Terrorblade will just go meta, spawn the illusions, and eat you the hell alive. So Kataomi, he needs to watch all the map and be like, stop Sunder, stop meta, get the R out as quickly as humanly possible so we can actually kill these heroes. And in this game, you know this young Nyx Assassin? I am worried about how they're going to be playing this game, because Nyx, after that last game, is now sitting 16 games, 81% win rate here at TI11 so far, which is obscene. That's actually incredibly high.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous that we're seeing the resurgence of something like this Nyx Assassin. This Viper ban is a little bit interesting for me. I feel like this is probably going to be a Timbersaw pick coming out from Entity. They are lacking a little bit of lockdown, but they've got the global silence to be able to help out the Timber. You really want to try and have somebody as being this frontward-facing Chaos Creator for them. Terrorblade really doesn't deal all too well with the Timbersaw. Yeah, they have the Static Storm and the Undying that can at least steal a bit of his stats and do a bit of work, but that's why you've got the global silence being able to come out here from the Silencer. So it's really on Fnatic about which one of these remaining heroes they have to try and play around with. I'd imagine it's probably going to be Pure playing the Shadow Fiend, Stormstormer on the Invoker, and they're looking for a Toby hero here to try and end it all out. We have seen Timbersaws do really, really well against Terrorblades in the past. So it's about what Fnatic want to get rid of here. I would say get rid of the Timbersaw, probably for my own personal sake. I guess Raven will probably have a few ideas that he wants to get rid of. Okay, Panda, I don't hate that either. Obviously, the Wind Panda can kind of just throw up the Terrorblade during Metamorphosis. He can kill all of his solutions as well. And, you know, if you get that split going, you can kind of just run at the Disruptor. And he doesn't really have much to do because he can't glimpse all three of the Broodlings at the same time.
How do you feel about Darkseer or Underlord here, which are also some classic Terrorblade counters? I think Darkseer could be particularly nice, right? We're already talking about having this buff-up strat for the Shadow Fiend, so another Aura carrier could be quite decent to introduce into the game, ensure that they make him as strong as possible. LC, okay. We haven't really seen this hero at TI so far. I think it was like, what, one game that involved the Legion Commander, but for the most part, this hero has been mostly ignored, so they will have access to this duel. I think there's only been the third game of LC. All of them have lost in my remembrance, but I'm not 100% sure. What do you make of this? Why LC of all the heroes and Fnatic yet again come back for this offlane Monkey King? We saw them playing this earlier today, I believe. Didn't necessarily work out for them, but it's going to be emerging here again. I don't know how I feel about this offlane Monkey King, if I'm going to be completely honest. So tell me how you feel about this Legion Commander first while we digest this last pick that came out of Fnatic.
I think the reasoning behind it is you've got heroes that are able to you can buff up the Shadow Fiend once again with the press the attack, and the duel just gives you that little bit of extra lockdown. I think they were lacking a little bit of extra catch and lockdown on the side of Entity. Toby has played a decent amount of Legion Commander in the past. It also enables you to kind of just jump onto this Terrorblade, right? You're able to jump on, get the duel going down, you hit the global silence. It's really hard for them to try and get the counter initiation that way around. So it's not too bad from the Legion Commander. I think, as you said, that this LC hero has been a little bit weak in the TI group stages so far. I think he's going to have a pretty rough time in his lane as well. Nyx Assassin Legion Commander doesn't really fill me with a lot of confidence against like a Terrorblade Disruptor lane. they are able to purge off the Thunderstrike with the press the attack. So I guess that's another reason why they wanted to pick the Legion Commander. They've got good heroes to buff up this Shadow Fiend, and we've seen what Shadow Fiend can do. Jab's playing the Monkey King. I don't have all too much confidence in it. So I feel like Entity definitely have some good ways to win this game, but Fnatic have a lot more comfort heroes. They've got Armel on his Pangolier. He's looked really, really good on that so far. Raven's playing his Terrorblade. Januel has been really, really good on a lot of his position 5 heroes, these strength kind of melee heroes. So I'm going to give Fnatic a very slight edge just because a lot of the comfort that they've got going, and I'm not 100% sold on this Legion Commander hero just yet.
I too am not sold on the LC, but for this one, the thing I like the most about the Fnatic draft is they actually have an opportunity to fight from behind in this situation. You have access to things like Wukong's command, hold heroes in position with the kinetic field, so that said Wukong could do all the damage and keep heroes in position for the Tombstone to come in as well. There's like a lot of things that seem like it'll go right. It's a very execution-heavy draft for Fnatic, but let's see if they can pull it off here in game number 2. They are down 1 game as it stands right now. They would hate to end the day's campaign going 0-2 in this situation. So they need to try and claw their way back into a winning position. Entity, of course, a lot of people were regarding the squad as being dark horses to win the whole damn thing here, Fluke, and they haven't necessarily been performing to those expectations. So they need to try and find some of these 2-0 wins, begin building momentum going into the playoffs. Of course, avoiding being eliminated is the priority right now, but they are looking towards the future. They want to go as deep into the tournament as humanly possible. And that's the kind of stuff starts here. A win against Fnatic, one of the C hopeful teams. Pretty much a home crowd squad.
Yeah.
And beating them here, 2-0, making the next couple of days a lot easier for you, mentally as well as within the game.
Yeah, they definitely would be super excited to be able to play in front of a Singaporean crowd. They are all Filipino players, though, so a lot of the Fnatic players. We'll basically call it the backyard, right? Like a lot of these Southeast Asian players are going to be happy to be able to play some of these TI main stages, whether it be in the Philippines, whether it be in Singapore. So, feeling a lot better right now. So, see how these first couple of fights do go out, though.
See how this game starts. Listen, man. I'm from Africa. If a tournament is held in Egypt, it's still counted as, I still have to look at it as, it's part of an African tournament. It's the home crowd I have to support.
True.
And, you know, the distance is a lot shorter over there in Asia, especially in Southeast Asia. So we'll see how they perform here. This all-important game number 2. Armel in this mid lane versus Stormstormer. So this is going to be a classic game. Stormstormer Invoker versus Armel Pango. This mid lane matchup is going to certainly be electric. Who do you give the edge to here between the 2 heroes of the Pango and the Invoker in terms of how they'll come out of this laning phase?
I think Pango does relatively well in most of the lanes. I think the fact that he has Lucky Shot as well as Swashbuckler just means he's able to secure a whole lot of these different bits of CS, and Armel has been kind of playing really well on this Pango. So I would have to give a very slight edge to the Pangolier because he's always going to have that small amount of kill threat, right? Like, constantly just gets these shield crashes going in. Once it hits level 3, it's going to be very, very hard for Stormstormer to stand and fight just because of the damage mitigation that comes out from shield crash. So I feel like Armel's going to have a relatively okay time towards this mid lane and be kind of fine with whatever comes out of it, especially if he gets a power rune at level 6. Talked about in a few games beforehand, power rune is going to be very, very important for the Pangolier this time around. Not so much important for Stormstormer, but if Armel gets like a haste rune, if Armel gets like an arcane rune, or maybe a double damage, he goes to one of these side lanes, he kills Pure, he kills Toby, if he's able to, you know, enable his Monkey King or his Terrorblade on the side lanes, then Fnatic are going to be in a pretty good spot.
And speaking of this Monkey King, able to pick up the first blood in the top lane, and it's the big target of Pure that they end up bringing down. Fnatic putting out that pressure. Bottom lane will also end up with a kill onto Toby. Who needs the rotations from Armel when these side lanes can just do it all themselves? 2 core heroes dying right now. Fnatic, this is the start that they needed for game number 2. In a much better position already. But they need to keep this bully job going. It shouldn't just be an early situation. Januel now being able, it's Jab, sorry, in the top lane with DJ. Because Januel is playing the bottom side of the map on his Undying. So they almost got another kill onto Pure just as he returned to the lane. He's going to have to ferry in so much additional regen just to sustain himself here. The next time they have access to the full Boundless Strike, Pure knows that they're going to try and go for him again. DJ also has the glimpse at the ready. So top lane, I think we should keep our eyes here, Fluke. We might have a kill not too long from now if they can have their way on the side of FANATIC.
Yeah, I think FANATIC are doing a good job at just abusing the fact that Monkey King is one of these heroes that has some really strong spells early on, and the Shadow Fiend hasn't hit that critical mass just yet. Like, SF really gets to the scary point when he hits that level 3 mark. He's got 2 levels in the Shadow Rays, once he hits level 5 as well. So if Jabs and DJ are able to just constantly be in the face of Kataomi as well as Pure, that's when it can really start to get scary, because Nyx is only really going to be an impale, and that's all he's really going to be in this lane. So once we start getting towards the later stages of this laning phase, where we see Pure having a few more levels, that's when FANATIC are going to have some troubles. But if they get 1 kill early on, which they already have, they can transition that into 2, then maybe the Monkey King can start to abuse this lane if he gets like an Orbital Corrosion early on, gets some boots, gets a few stat items, and just kind of constantly pressures the SF every single time that he shows his face in lane.
Right now, though, they weren't able to go for more aggression in the top lane, so things have quieted down a little bit, turning back into a farm fest for a while. If it's a farm fest, FANATIC heroes will certainly be extremely happy about it. And Kataomi in danger here in the top lane. One more hit will get him close. Boundless Strike is at the ready. Janual will commit it. Oh, Jabs, why do I keep messing up their names here? Jabs gets the glimpse back onto Pure with the help of DJ. Shout out Disruptor, great hero. Disruptor might die for this, but it's gonna grant Jabs a double kill on this Monkey King. All right. This is a phenomenal start to this game. We kept our eyes on the right lane here, Fluke, because this is where all the action is happening. Yeah,
I think Jabs as well as DJ, I think they just need to constantly be on the front foot here. I think they need to constantly just be in the face of Pure as well as Kataomi. They need to make sure that Jabs is constantly getting these kills. He's level 4 now. Love to see him get a level in the Primal Spring. He's got the full magic one. He's got boots. Wouldn't hate to see if he went for an Orb of Corrosion as well. You can just see how much pressure he can put here onto Pure. He's going to get the 2nd order or the 4th order attack, but copping a few too many of these raises here. Jabs does not have the Boundless Strike to try and heal back up. Did he actually dodge that?
Did he just dodge? Yeah, he did. Miss just dodged the 3rd raise. Well done from Jabs. In the meantime, Stormstormer was ganked up in the mid lane as DJ respawned, goes middle, ensures that they have the kill potential with the glimpse back. So providing some global value already on this Disruptor. Back on top. I think Kataomi's in trouble. Yeah, he's dead. He's super dead.
Glimpse.
Thunder Strike will be there. Glimpse back. Janual says, thanks, buddy. And Jabs now is dominating. 4 hero kills up in this top lane. How are they doing down bottom for Toby and Fishman? Toby can't really afford to be in a situation where he's being outpaced throughout the entire game. He's the one that needs to be able to make the forward jumps for his squad. Because of how rough things have been going for Kataomi, we're going to have a fairly late level 6 for this Nyx Assassin. So the dynamism of this game should come from Toby. They've already managed to zone out the Terrorblade, sending him all the way back to base here. So bottom lane will be the territory of Entity. Erstwhile Jabs on the top lane, yet again aggressing into Pure. But the body blocks from these creeps, putting him in a bad position here. He does get off the Boundless Strike though, and the glimpse back brings Pure right into the face of the Jabs Monkey King. A mega kill streak already for the MK. And this pressure that's being applied is so solid. Jabs, will he be able to escape away from this one? Indeed he does. They even drew Fishman to this top side of the map as well. So that leaves Toby all alone down bottom, despite the fact that he was dominating. And now look, Armel reading the map very well, making the rotation to the bottom lane. He has access to the Rolling Thunder. Toby, he sticks around for this last creep wave. Unfortunately, this creep wave will cost him his life as he gets rolled onto by Armel. Caught in the corner, he's already killed. And Pure came down bottom, either potentially for a lane swap or maybe to help out. But instead, he's going to find himself in some degree of danger. He's level 3 right now. He can't really stay far forward in this lane. Wow, Pure. Jabs has been putting the screws on him in this top lane, and it seems to have been working out. Seems like the pick of this off-lane Monkey King was an inspired decision coming in right now for FANATIC.
Pure is a lower level than what Januel is on the Undying here, so I mean, this is looking rough, man. I'm gonna be real. I think FANATIC are playing this draft to perfection. Jabs somehow is the scariest hero on the map. Maybe they might be able to get something back here with Pure.
Mid lane? Oh, they're looking for Januel. I think the bigger kill though could be happening middle, as they do end up being able to bring down the Undying, and Stormstormer barely escapes. Drops the ice wall. Because of the gank that just happened in the bottom lane, they didn't have Rolling Thunder on Armel, but now Jabs is here in the bottom lane, trying to punish Pure yet again. Raven looking for him in the trees as we see Jabs trying to chase for Toby. Raven's now on a killing spree himself. Toby doing his best to try and run away. I mean, Jabs has actually no real intention to kill him. Just wants to zone him back and say, dude, you can't play this lane anymore. I'm sorry. Just back the hell up. What can you do? But now, oh no, Toby! Back up, Toby! No! Toby's dead. The glimpse back will be there. Short's gonna put him in a technically safer position, but he's inside the kinetic field. The Sunstrike will connect onto Jabs, but he drops down the Boundless Strike. One more right click onto Toby. That'll result in a kill for the Monkey King. Unstoppable streak, 6-0-1 in the first 8 minutes of this game. And they can't punish Raven. They don't have the levels, they don't have the aggression, they don't have the ability. And now guess what happens? RML's coming top. He has Rolling Thunder. He knows that Pure is super weak right now. Pure is still level 4. And he's going to stay that way, Fluke. He's about to lose his life to RML. In the meantime, elsewhere on the map, Jabs able to get another pick off by himself onto Fishman. And Jabs almost kind of hard carrying this game at the moment. The reason Pure is so weak is because Jabs dominated him. Now he's here bottom doing the same thing to Toby and the crew. Wow, FANATIC are really showing up here in this game too.
Yeah, I mean, FANATIC are just showing the prowess of this offlane Monkey King. It really just did a whole lot of work up against the Shadowfiend. Shadowfiend is level 4, Jabs is level 7. Like, this is reminding me of release Monkey King. That's what this is reminding me here from Jabs. You'd pick Monkey King, you'd go in the offlane, you'd get a rampage at minute 1 because people weren't able to deal with you with the amount of lifesteal that you have. And Jabs is just being able to play along a lot of these edges, and Entity, they don't really have anybody who can shove any of these heroes out of their lanes, right? Like, everybody is so far behind that Pure is just trying to find his best time. Oh, he's been found once again. Jabs is hunting.
Well, I think this is his worst time, unfortunately, Fluke, because guess who's here? It's his old friend Jabs. It's like, hey buddy, haven't seen you in a while. Just wanted to say what's up. And unfortunately, Jabs' version of saying what's up is just sending you home to the fountain. And FANATIC not allowing the Shadow Fiend to play anywhere. This is definitely the most shut down I've seen a Shadow Fiend by 10 minutes in the entire tournament up until this point. He has not been able to do anything here, Fluke.
Yeah, and I think he's even lucky to just have a few of these souls. The fact that he has 5 Necro Mastery is still surprising to me, because the amount of times that I've seen Pure just get ran at. Like, they just get the Rolling Thunder, they just go directly into his head. You know, Jabs is always going to have the Primal Spring to be able to follow up as well, and you can just see how oppressive it's been. As soon as I saw Toby stick his face towards the bottom side of the map, you just saw that DJ and Jabs just drew a line towards the bottom side. They found Pure again. Oh, he's in the trees. He doesn't have a TP, man. Oh, they found him.
They know where he's at. There we go. Guess who finds him? It's his old friend Jabs. What's up, buddy? What's going on? How you doing?
Oh, this is so depressing to watch. Like, I really feel bad for Pure. Every so often I look to my right, I'm just seeing if I can see Pure in the player cams, because I think at this point, I don't know how you're supposed to come back from this, man. He's what, 1-7. He's 1-7 with 33 last hits at 10 minutes in. The Disruptor almost has more net worth than him. It's a big fight.
Stormstormer is going to look for revenge on his behalf, though. And nice dodges yet again from Jabs. The Static Storm buying time and space, so they are able to kill Jabs. But DJ demonstrating why this Disruptor hero was so valued in the draft. Drops the Static Storm down onto 2 cores. Yes, sure, you eventually end the Wicked's kill streak. Toby happy to grab that gold, but immediately has to give it back to the other direction, as Team Entity unable to do anything on this map. Every move they're trying to make has been hard countered. Every team fight they try to approach, they immediately get bounced back and rebuffed. And it just feels like FANATIC not going to stop this train for anything. Look at this. RML about to pick up a Diffusal Blade. We already have our Raven TB getting uber strong. Yasha's just arrived in for him right now. And of course, Jabs, the actual carry of this team, closer and closer towards the Echo Saber, and Entity running out of options on how to deal with these things. There's no levels for Pure, and they need to find some space and time for him to be able to farm up, but they need the same for all their other heroes. And with a lack of overall levels and a lack of items, they don't have the damage. Even if they were to find like a duel, they need to drop so much on top of it. They can't go for like these 2-3 hero gank squads. They have to involve so many resources. And that's so beneficial for FANATIC. It means they can outgreed the map and play pretty much exactly as they want right now.
Yeah, they are going to see if they can try and get this connection here onto Jabs. Maybe with the Sunstrike they can get this done. They're going to come in here, cut the Omi. No, okay.
Nah, dude.
They're a little bit too far away.
They clicked on him, they saw the Ogre Axe, they're like, dude, this isn't happening, is it?
So now we're looking towards to see what FANATIC are looking. You can see the lines that they drew. They decided to scan as well. They want to kill Pure. He's shown his face on this middle lane. They had the Rolling Thunder. They've got DJ here as well. Pure.
He's dead. Nice one. They dust up, thinking that it's the Nyx assassin nearby. They didn't want to go into the trees here. I think they were scouted, actually. There's an observer ward. It might have just caught the last vestiges of the smoke gank happening. So they're not able to get a clean initiation here. Good read of the map by Pure, keeping himself in a safe position. And they're not going to find this observer ward either. But unfortunately, this ward will scout out that they're going into the Roshan pit. Whilst Entity, can they really do anything about this? They got the Blink Dagger now for Toby, but Pure still doesn't have access to the Requiem. They don't have big teamfight spells from the Invoker just yet. They're still going to try. Stormstormer queuing up the Sunstrike. They found the ward.
Q from the Legion Commander. Very, very scary.
What you got, my friend? Nice impale to at least stop the Undying. Janwell. Not going to be able to plop down a Tombstone. Oh, yeah, actually, Harry has one right next to the Roshan pit. And Wukong's command committed just to ensure that they have the spacing to be able to bring this one down. And there is going to be the finale on the Roshan. They get the Aegis as well. Glimpse back onto the Silencer. Fishman, you're not going anywhere, my friend. They approach just to see what's happening from Kataomi and Fishman. They were hoping to try find any kind of angle into the pit, but all angles are denied. FANATIC get the 2 kills, get the Aegis. They're starting to really diminish the capacity for Entity to play anywhere on this map.
Yeah, surprisingly enough that they decided to give the Aegis to Jabs. I thought they were going to give that one to Raven, so you can kind of play a little bit more on the offensive side of the map. They understand that, you know, Jabs is being the guy who is being in the face of everybody. They're just playing around with Pure in this middle lane. Here are DJ and Raven. Oh, that's a duel that comes in. DJ, though, he has to stake some kinetic field combo.
Oh, Global Silence! He does end up dying, but they might try to come in for the counter initiation here. If he had a little bit more HP on that Pango, he survives, maybe gets back, allows himself to get off a swashbuckle, and then they can try and re-engage, but Entity willing to drop both the duel and the Global Silence. Regrettably, it doesn't equal dual damage. It's just a straight-up kill. But at this point in the game, especially given that the kill went the way of Pure, you'll take anything that you can get on this map. It's not been a kind experience for the side of Entity. But the game's not over just yet. They still have all their tier 2 towers. They still have their outpost. High ground has not been taken, nowhere close to. So we've also seen this Shadow Fiend come back from worse odds than this before here, Fluke.
We've seen 0-8 Shadow Fiends be able to come back and win the game, so I'm not going to write off this SF just yet here for Entity. He's going to have a bit of struggles, though, because in that game between Gaming Gladiators and Bet Boom couldn't take a tower to save their life, whereas here on the side of FANATIC, oh, this is going to be a big fight. Fishman, there's no way he just...
He's out. Oh. Yeah, DJ. I think it's kind of poetic that DJ is the one that got the glimpse onto Fishman. He's like, yeah, it's fun, isn't it? He did this to us all of game 1, buddy. It's enjoyable. With that, they're going to try to set up for this tier 2 tower. They can push. They don't have the fastest push in the world with Raven not being nearby as he is busy down bottom. So the current real carry in the form of Jabs will do his best impression of trying to beat down this tower, but it's going to take a while. And if they suss out that he's alone here, maybe they try to re-engage on him with the Invis, Kataomi Nyx, but Jabs also realizes the same thing and will just leap himself away, rejoining his team, getting closer to safety.
Yep. They're just starting to pull these heroes apart a little bit here. Pure is in a scenario where potentially could try and catch him out. DJ does have the glimpse to at least try and pull Pure away from this. They're going to dive deep behind this tower. Jabs, though, is in an awkward spot.
Very awkward spot. The Wukong is a good one. Pure gets off the Requiem, though, and that might lead into a kill onto Jabs. That's the first life taken, but Armel with a beautiful roll into a swashbuckle will delete 2 heroes, both of them being cores. The misery for Pure will continue into this game number 2, as we see the LC also unable to really do all that much for Toby. Man, the difference in Toby's game number 1, he was so influential all across the map, buying time for his team, getting in front of these engagements, but here on the LC, not really able to contribute in the same way. And now they've lost their first tier 2 tower down in this bottom lane. That's also Raven getting involved right now. He's about to finish the full Manta. This TB right now completely uncontested, Fluke, and the way they keep scaling like this, I'm really worried for the side of Entity once Raven decides to become a full-throated member of all these gang squads. Right now, he's primarily focused on his farming. But when he gets close to having that Eye of Skadi, he's going to be like, well, there's no reason not to just come in and just fight all of you. They'll probably need another Roshan before that point, but Entity, the way things are going, certainly it'll be FANATIC claiming that next Roshan as well.
FANATIC are definitely just starting to close this map out. Just trying to get rid of some of these tier 2 towers, just understanding that they can kind of scale in towards the late game as well. They've got a Monkey King, they've got a Terrorblade as well, who's getting towards that critical mass. And usually these first couple of items of the Terrorblade are the best kind of item timings you want to hit. You know, this Mantis-style Dragonlance timing is very, very strong for TBs. You hit that Metamorphosis, it's very, very hard for people to try and catch you out. The only real way they can catch you out is if they blink dueling with the Global Silence on top. This time around, it's going to be very, very hard for them to get that done, considering how strong Jabs has been as well here on the Monkey King. So FANATIC are in a good spot to be able to kind of clinch this game out and just take a few more of these tier 2 towers, which really kind of close it up for Entity. And I think Terrorblade has been one of the better heroes up against the Shadow Fiend as well, just with the raw amount of physical damage that Metamorphosis does. So I feel like even if this game gets a little bit further on and Pure actually does start to have an impact in this game, that the TB's is going to have his number no matter what.
Yep. Speaking of Set TB, he's top lane with the crew, pushing on the tier 2 tower. Jabs. We'll come back to the tier 1. I can't believe they still have tier 1s at this stage of the game. They only now lost the tier 1 tower bottom, and they'll happily trade it away for the tier 2 in the top lane. And with the defense mounted on their own tier 1 middle, are they going to try and reconnect up on top before this tier 2 goes down? You know Kataomi is there. They don't know if anybody else is nearby. Jabs, major thorn in their side. Yeah, they know he's here. He knows exactly where Kataomi is though. Gets off the dust. There's the glimpse. That's going to be a very easy kill. Armel claiming it for himself. 6-1 and 7 on the Pango. And they're not going to be dissuaded from trying to go high ground here. Okay, they have access to the meta of the Terrorblade, as well as a newly minted Mantis style, so they could try and go all in on this one. There's going to be the meta. Overwhelming odds does get rid of most of the illusions of the TB. We'll summon some additional ones, activating the Mantis style. They want the tier 3 tower. An Entity, their options for initiation are literally just Toby at this point in time. He definitely does not want to blink in onto any of these heroes.
The Overwhelming Odds does a good bit of damage here, but it's just so hard for Entity to get into these fights. You can just see that it's like they're it's kind of poking and prodding. Stormer and Pure don't even want to have a bar of this, so they're just going to say, okay, tier 3 tower, whatever, we're just going to lose it here. We're just going to let that one be and see if we can try and get a bit more of this gold across the map. Snare, this is starting to look a little dire straits here for Entity. I think it was dire straits from basically minute 0, but doing a good job at least buying a bit of time. Stormer has been constantly across the map, pushing out these waves, getting a whole lot of net worth. He's getting closer and closer to his BKB here. Same with Pure. So I think once they first have double BKBs, they're going to try and get a team fight with Toby blinking in, see if they can duel the Terrorblade. They're going to Global Silence on top, see if they can blow him up with the BKB of the Shadow Fiend and the BKB of the Invoker. They definitely have the damage to kill the Terrorblade. I don't think they're lacking in damage at all. I think it's just more about can they survive the first couple of seconds of these team fights and actually blow people up, because Toby's pretty squishy, Kataomi's pretty squishy, Fishman's pretty squishy, even Stormer to an extent is going to be pretty squishy. So if they don't catch the right target and they don't have this team fight being as clean as an execution as they can, then they can definitely be caught out here by FANATIC.
What's very scary as well is that even though he's about to pick up this BKB for Stormer, he can just get right click down by this Terrorblade. Entity now just trying to make sure that they can defend through this mid lane, as they know that the tier 2 tower is going to be under aggression soon. But is it really a wise idea to fight into FANATIC right now? Doesn't seem like it. Toby does pick up a blade mail at the very least, so there's something. And with how overwhelming this physical damage is, if he can find a favorable duel, could make a huge difference to their fortunes here. But Entity have to be so careful. Triple raises from the Pure not going to really help all that much damage-wise, given that they already have access to an Armel Blink, so he's just going to go to the far side of the fight, and Jabs has BKB already. But now they're going to smoke up. Going on a cool pop, Kataomi finds the Impale onto Jabs. Jabs is not the hero they want to catch first, but there's the Static Storm just before the duel comes out. But Unfortunately, he will still end up being dead. Global Silence will help cover it. Toby getting stunned up by this Rolling Thunder. Pure trying to lay out these right click onto this Undying. The Requiem will get cancelled out. Not going to be allowed to channel, but it's not going to matter. They've still gotten the kill onto the Undying. Toby loses his life towards the right clicks of this Terrorblade. And finally, the Requiem is let rip by Pure. It bounces back Armel. And that fear will prevent Terrorblade as well from coming up the ramp to finish off this Shadow Fiend. All right, Entity. Find a good fight with the initiation from Kataomi. Although they did drop down the Static Storm, you got the duel first, so you still end up getting the kill for yourself onto the jabs. And we've seen the effectiveness of jabs in the midst of these team fights. Killing him first is honestly a dream come true.
Yeah, I think that was the perfect bit of initiation that Entity were able to get done. Armel did a really good job with the Rolling Thunder to be able to just keep some of these heroes at bay, but Pure popping that BKB, just being able to wail in onto Jabs, who wasn't able to get his own BKB off as well. So Entity, they're starting to team fight their way back into this. I think the biggest thing for me, Raven was literally nowhere to be seen. He was on the other side of the map. I think he was coming back from base as well. So he just had to kind of awkwardly waddle back in towards that team fight. The team fight was 95% over by the time he even got close for FANATIC, and you see that they're able to kind of make that team fight look not all too bad, even without their big bad Terrorblade. So I think Entity did the perfect spot to be able to abuse the fact that there was no Terrorblade there, and they're starting to claw their way back into this game. Still a long road ahead of them though. Still have a lot more of these team fights they need to try and get done. But if they make them as clean as they have been so far, Entity is certainly looking into a pretty good shout right now. You'd feel pretty bad if you're FANATIC if you lose from here, though, after the dominant early stages that you had on a lot of these comfortable heroes as well.
This will do nicely.
We do have a smoke up right now from Entity, as they potentially want to announce themselves on the map. They know that the second Roshan is online right now. They do not want to give it up. Stormstormer. They have a gem. He scouts out the vision here on this high ground. Could get jumped on, so needs to be careful. Tombstone is going to be there. We see the drop down on the Static Storm from DJ, but it only connects onto Kataomi. Jabs also initiates the BKB. They'll try going for the Wukongs right next to this outpost, but the Global Silence will catch him. And here's Toby with the dual kill. They brought down Jabs. Somehow, Nyx Assassin isn't even dead yet, but Armel engaging the fight, has the Rolling Thunder. They glimpse back Toby. Will they be able to get more out of this, though? It's only this Legion Commander under direct threat at the moment. And he's even, the LC's not dead. She only passes on right now. And now they need to leave the rest of this engagement. Kataomi finds a stun onto Armel, able to bring down this Pangolier. And now they're on the retreat. Stormstormer blinks forward, gets off the ice wall to slow these heroes down with the EMP to follow. Janwell taking all the right clicks in the world. Stormstormer actually gets glimpsed back to safety. But Pure will end up dying to the raw damage of Raven as he finally unleashes the meta and throws in this damage. That is going to be a kill onto Pure. And as soon as he dies, Entity decide to beat the hasty retreat. At the end of the day there, Fluke, it's a 2-2 engagement, but FANATIC will end up losing 2 of their core heroes before they bring down 2 of the cores of Entity. And for a team that was this dominant not that long ago, it kind of feels like a win for Entity, except for the fact that they're giving up Roche. I think they're okay. Not happy, but they're okay with how that fight went.
Yeah, just FANATIC. Raven is playing very, very scared in these team fights. I understand that he didn't have the Metamorphosis, but you're so far ahead in a lot of these fights that even with the Terrorblade in the melee form, if you're able to just walk in and just enable Armel to be able to kind of run around in these fights and not have to do everything himself. Oh, speaking of Armel, he got stuck.
No. He did get stuck indeed, but Toby is also stuck in the middle of all of these heroes on the side of FANATIC. He'll buy back instantly though. But this is Static Storm committed. That was Wukong's committed, as well as the Rolling Thunder committed. So Tombstone's also down, committed to try and secure the fight earlier on the high ground. So that means that Entity have a slight window where they have the advantage with some of their spells being online and FANATIC not having access to theirs. Roshan is also fairly low here. Still a scary place to be. Who's going to make the jump first?
I wonder if they know that Sunder is on cooldown now. I think the Forge Spirits saw that Raven had the Sunder there onto Janwell, so maybe this might be a good time for Fantasy to try and get this one going. Jabs is in the front. Oh, there's so much damage from Armel.
God! Armel! Just one swashbuckle almost straight up killed the Invoker. If there had been a potential follow-up with the Boundless Strike, Primal Spring in, it would have just been a disaster. They will now find Janwell. He does have buyback available though. Will he choose to commit it? Pure wants to go into the Roshan pit. These Forge Spirits going in. They have the Smelting Strike, so if they're given time to hit this Roche, it'll be a lot easier for Entity. Here comes Armel, though, with the Rolling Thunder. They've caught out onto the Silencer, but the Silencer has Global available. They're not going to be able to kill him just yet. Will he be committing the spell? No. He dies, and now Pure, caught inside with the Glimpse, will be able to find the Requiem. Jab still chasing him down, though, hoping to be able to find this kill. Erstwhile, we see the duel coming in on the north side of the fight. Jabs still chasing Pure. Pure trying his utmost. Hurricane Pike away, but he's caught on the edge of the kinetic field and will be brought down. They do kill Armel on the side of Entity, but they lose their big Pure Shadow Fiend. And because he's dead, they have nobody to hit the Roshan, so Raven will happily come back in the pit. However, Entity still have 4 heroes waiting in the wings. They really want to dissuade him from making this jump. They still have the global to cover this. And there's no BKB on Raven just yet. Kataomi can't find a way into this fight. Gosh, things are still so tense, Fluke. Despite being 5k gold up, FANATIC just can't find a way into this Roshan pit clean at the moment.
Yeah, they just haven't been able to really get this team fight going the way they want to. Now they're going to use the Global Silence. That is definitely not a good Global Silence that comes in there from Fishman. Not a response that comes in, and now this is going to be a free Roshan in with Gil responding. They've lost the racks in the top side of the map, by the way. They have lost an entire lane of racks due to these creeps just pushing in, and now Entity are in such a rough spot. Kataomi goes down. Both these teams, I feel like they're starting to feel the pressure of TI here, Snare. You can really see that Raven is playing oh so scared in a lot of these fights. He does not want to go in anywhere near these members as long as he knows that he has an Aegis or either has a BKB in his back pocket. Armel and Jab's doing a beautiful job at just constantly getting in the face of Entity, constantly just pushing the fact that they were dominating this game here. Snare, like, they were absolutely destroying Entity, and now this game is starting to peter out. They're actually starting to wrangle back their lead once again, but Entity, they almost were able to fight themselves back into this one, and if FANATIC lost from here, I feel like the rest of the group stage, man, that definitely would have been a very tough pill to swallow.
Absolutely. You can definitely see the nerves. I mean, FANATIC, Raven in particular, hasn't been in a successful TI team in quite some time. The last time that he was able to come place very highly was all the way back at TI6 with TNC. So he really wants to try and reach those heights again, so needs to be as careful as humanly possible. Sometimes, though, being overly cautious can be the reason you don't go as far as you'd like to. But in this game, FANATIC still in a good position. BKB now available for Raven. 4 of the other heroes of FANATIC are smoked up, looking for a fight. They extended a little bit too far now. I think they should be like, well, we haven't found anybody. Smoke's about to expire. Can at least get some vision out, and indeed, General drops it. Allows them to have some degree of awareness of what's happening in between these tier 2s and tier 3s on the side of FANATIC middle.
And I think this game is all important for both these two teams as well. I'm not going to spoil some of the results for this Group B match, but the way some of these results have been going, the 2-0 here is huge for Entity. Absolutely massive for them to at least try and have a good shot at the upper bracket, and if FANATIC are able to get their second map here, then that means on their day number 3, they don't have to have a really standout performance. Like, they don't have to go like 6-0 on their third day to try and pull back this group for them. So you can tell that both these teams understand how important this game really is with how close Group B has been throughout the entirety of these last couple of days. So yeah, they don't want to put themselves into perpetuity where if they're sitting only on 4 wins at the end of this from FANATIC, they are within touching distance of some of the teams that are looking to get eliminated here of TI, and you can see they really want to try and make this one clean.
They're pushing. The slow siege coming out of the Raven Terrorblade with the illusions. Stormstormer doing his utmost from afar to try and dissuade this push. Just drop the meteors, drop the Deathling Blast. It's not going to be good enough though, and they can't close the gap to reach this Tombstone either. So Entity just choose to let it go. First lane of full racks has fallen. Top lane, there is still a melee racks remaining, but FANATIC will certainly attempt this maneuver again as soon as humanly possible. Might not be possible within this particular run of the Aegis, as the item is about to expire in 2 minutes. We still have 100 seconds before meta is available again. So there'll be, and given how they've been playing this game extremely cautiously, they probably will wait for another opportunity. However, Fluke, that does give a chance toward Entity to try and reclaim this game a little bit. And they got some of the items to be able to do so. Stormstormer has a Hex BKB with the Blink, so he can surprise some of these heroes. But more importantly, Pure's picked up a Butterfly now. and he's getting closer towards having this Chrysalis. Nobody on the enemy team has anything close to an MKB just yet. Terrorblade hates buying MKB in general, so Pure has upped his effective HP by giving himself this massive degree of additional evasion.
Yeah, he still also has to try and deal with RML that's floating around as well. So the butterfly is good for him to kind of stand tall up against RML. As you said, a little bit of extra effective HP can kind of mean the difference between getting off a Requiem or not getting off a Requiem, winning some of these fights, going back and forth. Obviously, RML still always has access towards the Sunder. So you have to be very, very careful with how you're playing these fights here. But I do like the pick up from Pure. I think you kind of, when you're this far behind the 8 ball, you kind of have to pick these big items up, like the Hex on Stormstorm, like the Butterfly, because otherwise you're not going to be able to get these fights going. Oh, they caught jabs.
Ooh, onto jabs. Global Silence will help cover this one as well, and they do get the kill. That's actually going to be dual damage going the way of Toby, but he will die for this one. Pure inside the BKB trying to TP out. There are no bashes coming in from Armel during the swashbuckle, so there's no cancellation. Is able to get back. Kataomi trying to find Januel. Januel is going to go into the Flesh Golem just to make sure he doesn't get caught out here. There's going to be a glimpse back though onto Kataomi. This next assassin surrounded and killed. No buyback available from him. No buyback available from the Legion Commander. That might be the opening that Fnatic were looking for. They're going to hope to try and at least force buybacks. Then once they are cognizant of the fact that they don't exist, they might just go for the full-throated push onto this third and final lane of Rax. And they get the second one pretty easily here. Stormstormer attempting the delays. He gets glimpsed back all the way to middle. This is not good. This is very not good, Fluke. He can't even approach straight through here. He's going to have to loop all the way around through the bottom lane, and that's going to give them so much time to try and force this third and deciding lane of Rax. Oh, gosh. It's actually coming in on the backlines, though. Triple Meteor gets dropped down. Januel will end up being his primary victim. That'll give space for Pure to try and take down this Tombstone. He succeeds in his endeavor, but now maybe he's a little bit vulnerable. Glimpse back into the middle of the fray. Can't get off the Requiem because there's the Rolling Thunder. There's the Wukong's command right on top of him. And there's going to be the kill. No buyback available for the Pure Shadow Fiend. However, maybe they keep this fight going. Toby got off the Blade Mail, doing so much damage to Raven. Raven's going to die. What a duel coming in from the Toby Legion Commander. He's going to lose his life for this. But who the hell cares? He might not even die, actually. The damage is not coming in from jabs just yet. The Boundless Strike's going to be beautiful, but there was an even better Next Assassin stun with the Spike Carapace. Not going to be enough, though, to actually threaten this Monkey King as he gets himself back, saving the life of Disruptor in the process. But because of the kill onto the Raven Terrorblade, Entity have held the base here, Fluke. Mega Creeps are not available. Fnatic will have to try again, and Entity still have another opportunity to make this a 2-0 series.
All right, boys and girls, strap yourselves in. We are getting ourselves into late game Dota right now. It's Snare and Fluke, and there's a comeback coming in. So I'm expecting this to be 60 minutes. Snare, I'm just going to say it now. I'm just going to manifest it. It's 60 minutes. We're just going to, just talk about tier 5 items in like 25 minutes. We're going to be like, okay, this game's starting to look even once again. Entity's going to get all these towers. We're going to be talking about like the 10th Roshan. I think at that point, maybe Gaben himself just spawns into Dota and says, okay, here you go. Whoever gives me, the crispest hug or whatever is able to win the game here. So it's going to be a long one here, Snap. Usually what happens when we get towards the end of the group stages here of TI. These games get oh so close, and I even talked about how important this game is going to be for both Entity as well as Fnatic. We're getting to the latter stages of day number 2 here for both these two groups. Oh no, they found out Armel.
Oh my god, that's Spike Carapace. But the Spike Carapace also leads into a huge Static Storm. Unfortunately, the BKBs were committed. Stormstormer can't get himself out of this. The Static Storm with the Aghanim Scepter prevents him from activating his BKB. So the mids are traded out here. It is a Global Silence committed from Entity for this though. So they have to run away. That if they got off the Stormstormer BKB, that would have been such a huge fight for the side of Entity, but DJ, Static Storm with Ags, this Disruptor hero, when it's effective, it is so damn good in this fight. But yet again, Entity still happier with their trade overall. They have buyback on Invoker if needed. That's yet another kill, and that's yet another stalling of this game. And there's no Roche available for Fnatic to just claim immediately off the back of this. So Entity, name of the game is buy more space and time, and that's exactly what they achieved with that kill in the mid lane.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what they need to do, right? Obviously, playing in towards the DJ Ags is going to be very, very hard for them because it is kind of just that ability that's, I don't say it's impossible to outplay, but you are going to have to predict what DJ is doing, but DJ is going to be the one that's going to be playing the pace of the game here. And you can see what FANATIC are doing. They're one hero down, but they don't care. They want to go in towards the base here on Entity and take down Toby.
Toby does have buyback. Will activate the blade mail, but woo, he's already dead. We're getting a glimpse back onto Fishman here. They forced the immediate buyback on the LC. Armel respawning himself. As FANATIC, you're happy with this, right? Forcing buybacks. Sometimes that's also the name of the game for you. Ensure that the next time a fight rolls around, they can't buy back and defend from this high ground. So now if Toby dies again, it's a very awkward situation. Oh no, Fishman! He also needs to be careful. He is instrumental to how these fights have been playing out if he has the global. It's going to be up in 10 seconds, and he does have buyback if he wants to return to it. There's going to be the chaotic offering. Oh, look at Neuven! He's falling so low. Needs a Sunder target, but he activates the Metamorphosis.
Oh, the Static Storm
laying out this damage. Static Storm on the back of the fight will isolate the Shadow Fiend, and SF is gone. He is forced to buy back almost instantly, but they also found Toby in the meantime, who doesn't have the buyback. Jabs, though, taking damage from Pure and the gang. He'll be able to kill him without buybacks, but the thing that they wanted is the Megas, and they've got them. Mega creeps available for the Radiant lineup. And who can they catch on the retreat? Kataomi, looking for somebody, looking for anybody. Instead, he's the one that gets found out because FANATIC, they're like, we're right here, buddy. All of us are together. Kataomi, if he dies here, he doesn't have buyback. It's going to be a dieback onto him. And indeed, he does end up taking a tumble. Fortunately for the side of Entity, they did lose Jabs earlier. So I don't think FANATIC want to run into the base right now. But Entity, this game is hard. Stormstormer jumping forward with this SF. They were hoping to find Armel, but he blinked away to safety just before the Hex would come into play.
Yeah, he has Lincoln Sphere as well, so it's going to be very, very hard for them to actually catch this Pangolier. Entity, though, backs against the wall. We saw what EG were able to do today up against the Mega Creeps. It was a Rapier for Arteezy. Maybe it might be Rapier time here for Pure. He's got what he had, a lot more gold than what he does. Having to buy back in that last fight really does start to dwindle away at these carries, kind of penny purses, and maybe Rapier is going to be what Pure's going to need to use here as well. Toby doesn't have anything close towards a BKB. Stormstormer, what's he got on the horizon? He's going to go fresher. So Stormstormer has a lot of gold, and there's a lot of ways at being able to beat these kind of late game kind of invokers. I think there's going to have to be something special that comes out of Stormstormer, like a massive kind of, you know, tornado, meatball, deafening blast, like double combo to be able to try and take down Armel. He still has his own BKB though. Maybe if they can utilize it on Raven, he's got his own BKB as well, so there's going to be a lot of these interesting team fights going in now with the Aegis out onto Raven. I don't know, man. This feels like it's going to be hard, but Entity, they're fighting tooth and nail. It's not so much that they're going to be out of TI if they lose this game, but they definitely are going to be backs against the wall. They want to try and end this day 6-4. They're going 5-5. This puts more and more pressure onto these final couple of days of the group stages here, Snare. You don't want to be in best of ones at TI, man. You really don't.
Some of the best teams in the world have found themselves bounced out of TI because of those best of one situations.
Yep.
It's the worst thing ever. It's also, you know, if you haven't been at TI, it's your first time here or you haven't been here in several years, your first experience on the main stage being direct elimination from a BO1, pain and suffering. And now here comes FANATIC though. They want to force Entity into this 5-5. They're going in.
Oh, the Hex.
They get the Sunstrike out. Hex is out onto the Terrorblade as well. The triple Meteor is dropped with the Requiem, but they just don't have the damage here. They get off this Metamorphosis, turn onto Pure, right-clicking him down inside the Wukong's command. SF is gone without buyback. Stormstormer very likely to follow him as this Rolling Thunder from Armel connects onto both cores at the same time. Also able to track down and lock onto the Silencer. And with all these heroes dead, Entity read the writing on the wall. They see the 5-5 in their eyes, and they call the GG, giving FANATIC the Game 2 victory and making Group Number B one of the most interesting and entertaining groups that have happened in TI history. This is lovely to watch here, Fluke. Sad if you're an Entity fan, but wonderful if you're a Dota fan.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a very, very interesting last couple of days for us here on the Caster Desk, Snare, because I feel like so many of these 1-1s and so many of these 2-2s are going to come back to bite these teams. If they're able to just kind of get that little bit of extra something in some of these games, be able to have, you know, maybe a better laning phase, maybe have just a slightly better draft, then they could be, you know, looking towards upper bracket instead of elimination bracket. You know, the way that this game has gone here for FANATIC, they finally were able to get something on the board here. I'm still not 100% convinced by FANATIC. They still look look a little bit disconnected in the way they were fighting. You see here, Raven was oh so scared in every single one of these team fights here on the Terrorblade. And I think if you're playing against some of these other teams in the other groups and in the playoff bracket, they will punish you for playing this kind of scared kind of Dota. They did a really good job at using RML and jabs to put a lot of pressure in these team fights, but it just got to a point where Raven, look at him, he's full HP, he's full mana, and he hasn't used a single thing. I think he dropped 1 Q, 1 reflection in that team fight, and that was basically about it. And this is where, if you're playing up against some of these other teams that aren't, what was it at this point, 3,000 gold behind you, you're really able to kind of get punished in some of these games. So Fnatic, they get the double on the board. They're able to beat Entity here, but I still feel like they've got a long road ahead of them here, especially for the start of the case.
Yeah, it absolutely did not feel like the most crisp performance out of them. They sort of had to eke out this win at the very end of it. There were moments like this one where a fight turns really, really sour in the blink of an eye. Honestly, without DJ having this Aghanim Scepter, I think we're going to, the replay after this one where they fought middle, DJ's Aghanim Scepter kind of saved this game for Fnatic as well. Several times we did see them initiating on the side of Entity, but unable to get off either the Hex from Stormstormer, his BKB, or even the Hex from Pure, or the BKB from Pure rather, just because of that Static Storm. Without it, Fnatic might have been in a much more dire straits. Like you said, clearly not the final product just yet coming out of Fnatic at the moment, but they still have 2 more days in the group stages to try and level up at this point in time. An Entity having gone 1-1 in this situation, when do you think it started to all fall apart from them? I mean, I know that we saw Jabs just dominating the entire game. The first like 20 minutes was just him creating havoc for the side of Entity. Could they have responded differently to the pressure that he was applying from top before he started to make those rotations to bottom and then started to control the mid lane?
I definitely feel like they probably could have sent maybe 1 to 2 heroes towards that top lane, but this is kind of the issue that they have with their support duo with the Silencer as well as the Nexus, and this is why I'm going to be singing at the top of my lungs. The Silencer is one of the worst heroes in the game. He really doesn't do much for the first couple of minutes. He's one of those heroes, he's going to throw out an Arcane Curse in the lane, he's going to throw some auto attacks down, he's going to try and be this annoying little, I don't know, whatever you want to call him, mosquito, and that's all he's really going to do. He's just going to kind of be annoying in the lane, and you're not all too scared about a Silencer rotating on you, right? He doesn't have any stuns. He's got a little bit of a slow. His damage isn't that great early on. The only thing you're really kind of worried about is the global silence when you start getting towards those team fights. So the fact that they had Fishman here on this Silencer, he couldn't really rotate towards top because, like, what's he supposed to do against the Monkey King? He can't silence him. He can't push him away. He can't save the Shadow Fiend in any way, shape, or form. So they kind of just cut their losses with Pure, and they just said, all right, Jabs, you're going to have a pretty good game here on the Monkey King. We'll leave you here. You can get your MVP, and hopefully we're able to deal with you in the mid game. But it just didn't work out that way, and I really just want to start seeing these teams have these supports that just can do more than a right click, you know, an R button. I've seen a lot of good global silencers. I've seen a lot of good teams utilize the silencer right now, but let's just get back to basic, boys and girls. Let's just pick some stuns, pick some heroes that can kind of rotate around the map, pick some heroes that can kind of win lanes and win the game for you. So Drake did a good job. They drafted really well. They're picking up this offlane Monkey King. Wasn't extremely sold on it. I think that Fnatic are trying to find some answers to the Shadow Fiend, and I think this is a good enough answer, especially when they have some pretty weak support. So Fnatic, they get a nice little check from me here at the end of day 2.
One thing that I do think that they were also a little bit lackluster on the side of Entity is the Toby Legion Commander didn't really work out. That's the third game of LC here at TI11 so far, and every single one of them has been a loss. The hero, I feel like one of the issues from the offlane, whenever you have these kind of teams that the offlaner either has to dominate or does nothing, then you start to have these issues, right? We saw this as well with the Visage pick, where up until yesterday, Visage had not won. I think late into yesterday, I think the last game of the day was the first win for the Visage, losing every other game for quite some time. So that's also a hero that we see having a bit finicky coordination with the rest of the squad, and you have to do really well in the laning phase to be able to have a solid mid game. I think that's also the turnaround here, right? That this time around, Fnatic had the ability to fight back, whereas if you start falling behind on Entity, becomes much more difficult to be able to do so. However, now that we are done with this series, now that we do have the 1-1 at the very end of the day, that does wrap up the proceedings for the entire day of Dota. It's still an interesting day because the next 2 days are going to be incredible. You know why? Look at these results that we had today, right? A lot of them were fairly surprising here on Stream C. If you come into this day expecting that this was going to be a sweep for many of the teams you're supporting, many surprises. Team Spirit, 1-1 draw with Talon. The only real, okay, I probably saw this coming result that we see here is probably the result of RNG and the result between Team Secret and TSM, but that just speaks to the strength of RNG. That speaks to a little bit of the shakiness of TSM that we've seen across both Stream C and D. But the first and the last games, surprises in their own right, and that also means that every team in Group B outside of Team Secret right now, feeling the pressure, man. Feeling the pressure.
Yeah.
These results, we're about to see the standings very shortly, but it's such a tightly contested day still. And the champions of TI, the current holders of the Aegis, Team Spirit, haven't necessarily looked so hot in these group stages. Look where they are right now. Currently in a lower bracket berth and not that far off from being in an elimination situation here in the TI 11 group stages.
Yeah, it's really, really rough when you're looking at some of these games right now. I believe that the Asta and Beast Coast series is still currently going on. Is the reason why we're waiting on one of those. Right? Yeah, Asta versus Beast Coast is still in game number 2 right now. Asta were able to get that first dub. So I'd imagine that it's probably going to be Beast Coast and Talon at the end of day number 2, sitting at 2 and 8. FANATIC and TSM, they're kind of close towards that lower stage. Group B is oh so tight. I think the same thing with Group A. I don't think too many people are going to be too surprised with the teams that are going to be eliminated. But Beast Coast, Talon, Bet Boom, Sonics, they have to have big days here for day number 3. And I think the biggest thing for me is those teams actually have some relatively straightforward competition for them. I think, looking across at Talon, they've still got Beast Coast they can play up against. They can play up against FANATIC. They've still got a lot of these teams in this group. And they still should be able to try and get a 2-0 over. I think if Talon are able to get themselves a 2-0 against Beast Coast, get themselves a 2-0 here against FANATIC, we could see some interesting stuff in Group B, whereas I think Group A, probably right now, RNG and EG, I don't want to say they're locked in towards the upper bracket unless they have a completely horrendous day 3. They'd only be 1 to 2 wins away from securing themselves upper bracket there in Group A. So Group A, almost locked up. Group B, still up in the air.
Let's take a look actually what the schedule is going to be looking like tomorrow to see what opportunities these squads will have to change up their fortunes and their fates. This initial game, now this game here, Fluke, is going to be incredible. And the reason it's incredible is because technically by proxy, this could be an elimination game. Sonics versus Bet Boom, both of them currently 2 and 8 at the very bottom of their Group A placements. If either of them get a 2-0, that's going to be enough to elevate them out of the bottom 2. If it's 1-1, both of them stay in the bottom 2. So that matchup matters quite a lot here on Stream C. TSM Entity, that one. Also, these are some mid-group teams here in group number B. We see that the scoreline not that different from one another. TSM is at the very bottom of the group, but yet again, a couple of good results could easily elevate them out of it. They just need one win, kind of, and they're no longer in the bottom 2 as it stands right now. And then, of course, Sonics and Bet Boom. Bet Boom is actually in the bottom 2 as well. So Sonics tomorrow matters quite a lot. They cannot afford to walk away with any 0-2s. They probably had to 2-0s. I don't even think 1-1s will do it for them. And then, of course, Team Spirit versus Tundra, which is going to be a very fun game. But PSG LGD, the reason I really want to see that game is because, let's be honest, yesterday PSG LGD were terrible. They looked awful. They looked off the pace. Their drafts weren't good. Their communication was bad. Their movements around the map didn't make sense. But today, the glow up, the level up, new day, new me. PSG LGD showing us the dominance we've come to expect from this lineup. So we'll be waiting to see if they can continue that into tomorrow, because if they can, they suddenly start to build that momentum and look not just like an upper bracket team, because when this team is at their best, they are actually the best in the world, which is what we actually came to TI to see. So I'm hoping that they can deliver for us tomorrow.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of importance on a lot of those series tomorrow. Obviously, day 3 is the last kind of full day for all these teams as well. I believe on day number 4, it's only 1 series for each of these teams as we go forward. So tomorrow is going to be all important, especially for these teams that still have their 3 matches to play. Teams in that Group A are the ones that have 3 matches to be able to play on that second and final day. So teams like Sonic definitely need to try and pull up their britches. Things like Hikori as well, who have been kind of surprising a few of these teams. If they have a little bit of a slip towards the end, that's when it can start getting interesting. But I mean, day number 3 is now. We've already had 2 amazing days at TI so far. Day number 3 is where we start to actually figure out who's going upper bracket, who's going lower bracket, and which of these 4 teams are going to be eliminated on the first, little section of group stages here at TI. So, I mean, day number 3, baby. I mean, I can't wait. Let's get into it.
I can't wait either. So with that, we are going to be closing out the show for the day. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody at home, for TI 11. The group stages still continue into tomorrow, like Fluke mentioned. So make sure that you are with us to join us for that action in about 12 hours from now 10 a.m. SGT Singaporean time, 4 a.m. African and European time. But it's Dota, so it excites us to be up that early to participate in TI11. Thank you so much for joining us over the course of these last few hours. My name is Snare. This is Fluke.